Good morning, and as you can see, I've been doing a bit of grass. The whole idea at the moment is to work from back to front and then all the way up to the first tunnel. Now it doesn't look great at the moment because it's just the grass bit. There's other things to add in, as you can imagine. I've been using 2mm static grass and it doesn't cover quite as well as the 4mm. So when you hoover off the excess after 24 hours, I'm getting these patches appear, which I didn't downstairs on the previous layout. But this is part of the reason why I paint it brown. It's so that when you do hoover up the excess, you can see the bits that you've missed. And it shows through as earth. So you could just leave it if you wanted. So I've been using a gallon of Screwfix from... I've been using a gallon of PVA from Screwfix. It's very cheap and it's easy to use. And you can see the second reason for painting it all brown is you can see where you've applied glue. If I'd left this as the white plaster, I wouldn't be able to see the glue on it. I wouldn't know if I'd missed a bit. Now 3 years ago I knew nothing of static grass. I'd never heard of it. I wasn't making a model, so I wasn't even watching YouTube. So what's the principle behind static grass? Well, it's a plastic material and it works in the same way as rubbing a balloon on your belly and then making your hair stand on end, assuming you've got some left. So we have a tool to apply the grass. It's got a hopper, and in the bottom of the hopper there is a terminal. In the handle there is a 9-volt battery, and I would assume a transformer to boost up the voltage to get the static. And I have had a static shock off it when I was cleaning out the hopper, and I hadn't switched it off, and it didn't half give me a real good belt. So then you fill the hopper with the static grass, you put on a grid mesh on the top which allows it to fall through. Now mine cost me about £50, but there are more expensive ones with a much larger hopper and different size grids, because static grass comes in 2mm to 12mm. So if you've got a big grid and you're using 2mm, the whole lot falls out. And if you're using 12mm, it won't fall through. So you have to have different grids for it to fall through at the appropriate rate. My grid, I think, is a little bit too big for 2mm. It empties itself far too quickly. But you can see here, I'm going back to the beginning and covering up bits which kind of the glue has soaked in. So once we've loaded the tool, we switch it on. We have one terminal that we just hang around near it, and then we shake. And the static makes this stuff stand on end. And that's what gives it the texture. So I'm not overly happy with this 2mm. So I will probably get 4mm next time I need some. And you basically keep going until you can't see white anymore. Then I leave it for 24 hours. And hoover up the excess. Now I hope you're good at servicing locomotives, because this stuff gets everywhere. It's all over the platform, it's all over the track. And even though you hoover it all up, there's still a lot of loose stuff hanging around. And if you've over-oiled your locos, you're going to find it stuck to your locos. So it's a forever job cleaning up this static grass. You can see the overspill. Now another thing you get is when you do hoover up the excess, you hoover up other bits and pieces on the layout, like bits of ballast and bits of tarmac road, and when you pour it back into the tub and reuse it, then it inevitably ends up with your static grass. But again, that will hoover up, and at some point I will do a hoover, and instead of recycling, it will just get binned so that all those little bits of ballast all over the place are gone. But once it's done, you do get this wonderful texture, and it's even better in 4mm. Now you can coat over the top of this. You use a spray glue. So you spray on the glue and go again, and then you can get rid of the bits that you've missed. But you can also use hairspray. Now I've had a chop up of the hill here, and I've put in a kind of a, it's quite a steep ramp really, but it will allow me to build a farm track up onto the top of the hill. And I put a lump in here and at the front of the board. This will all get smoothed out with plaster. It looks very square and boxy, but I'll be sorting that in the future. Ta-ra!